Welcome. Hello. Okay, so today we're going to talk for a little bit about the beginning. In the beginning, there was marketing. We're going to talk about creating customer value and engagement. So we've talked a little bit about value in the past in terms of value being the goal of marketing, right? You're creating value for your customers. And so the exercise that we just did when you listed the 5 brands that you like and the 5 brands that you dislike, we didn't actually use the word value, but in a way that's kind of what was, I think, directly or more indirectly motivating what you were thinking. In other words, some of the reasons or one of the driving reasons why you might like a brand or dislike a brand is because you feel like it gives you value. In other words, you feel like you get your money's worth. Or you feel like you get some use out of it. That maybe is another word for value. You get some use or function out of it, right? If you pay money for something and it works once and then breaks, why would you use it again? Or why would you trust it to buy it again, right? But if it works and works well and lasts and is reliable, of course you would use it more and you would recommend it to other people. One of the strongest mechanisms for motivating a purchase is word of mouth. What's word of mouth? Like, how would you define word of mouth?
When you refer someone, a friend or something.
That's been going
You
on.
talk about it.
You talk about it, right? What else?
Like the first time we spoke, like mama, papa.
What is it? What is it?
The first time we spoke,
Yeah.
mama, papa.
Well, yeah, but what is word of mouth?
What do we say?
Yes, words coming out of your mouth is what mama, papa, yes. But I mean in a marketing context. So in a marketing context, it's about referring people, but you had something else to say. What would you say?
Like what's been going around.
Yeah, like what's been going around. Like a great example of word of mouth marketing here is what I know you guys do about professors here. Right? Don't take that professor, he's hard. Take that one. He's less hard. He's easy. Or he's fun, or at least he's interesting, right? You guys have your whole little network. You probably have like some WhatsApp group or some, I don't know how you guys do it. But word spreads, right? I know how it works. I don't know how it works, but I know that it happens, right? I don't know your process, but it's impressive, right? It's like a secret communication network you guys have. Somehow it works. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about value. So hopefully, yeah, I think we'll have to. There we go. Okay. So we kind of already went over this definition, but we'll go over it again and I'll give you the specifics. So what is marketing? So we've talked about what is marketing, but let's just go over the basic definition. So the sort of official definition for marketing, it's pretty understandable, it's pretty straightforward. So marketing is a process, I'm going to underline a few keywords here. Marketing is a process by which companies create value for customers and build strong customer relationships in order to capture value from customers in return. Okay, so what I might do here is draw like a little diagram that I've done before. Let's see. Right? I think it's helpful to visualize this definition as this kind of circular phenomenon, right? So let me back up, though, and kind of go over some of the key ideas or phrases out of this. So the first thing is marketing is a process. What is a process?
Like an ongoing.
Like something that's ongoing, right? It's something that has many steps and many parts. What else? How else would you guys define or explain what a process is? Like if you want to add a class, what's the process?
Learning.
No, if you literally want to go add a class and join a class, I mean,
You have to open the portal and then register.
Follow some
right,
steps.
so you go to the portal, you follow certain steps. So that's just an example or a parallel I wanted to give forward. Marketing is the same kind of thing. There's a process, right? And so in some of the previous classes, I was talking about things like marketing, research, and product development. That's kind of a brief kind of introduction because I think a lot of people, when they think of marketing, they just think of the promotional side of marketing. So when we hear marketing, we think commercials, newspaper ads, movie trailers, all the things that we see and hear. But that's just one part of marketing, and that's often kind of the latter parts, or the parts closer towards the end of the process. Because really, when you look at the rest of the definition, and it talks about companies create value, and then they capture value from customers. So you create value for your customers, and then at the same time, you're also capturing value from those same customers. But it needs to be a balanced process. So if you're creating value for your customers, what does that mean? Or how would maybe you interpret what that means? But if you're a company and you create value for your customers, what do you think that means?
The benefits.
They'll come back, right?
The benefits.
That you'll give them benefits?
Good for the customer.
You make it good for the customer, right? So what are some ways you can make your products or service good for the customer?
Being friendly.
Being friendly?
On time.
Punctual.
Listen to their.
Oh, on time, 1 second. But think about, okay, those are good things in terms of the customer experience, but go back further, like when you're developing the product. What's an important thing to do if you're developing or redeveloping a product?
You listen to the customer's
Oh, the magic word, I was hoping someone would say listen, right? Listen, right? The challenge of listening, and I'm going to show you guys a great video about a focus group a little bit later. The challenge of listening is a lot of times people don't know what they want, or sometimes people will say what they think they want you to say, or what they think you want them to say. Okay. But sometimes listening isn't hearing what they say; it's letting them talk, and then going through what they say and trying to sometimes read between the lines, or really trying to understand what it is they're saying. Because a lot of times we think we understand what people are saying. I mean, think about your own conversations with people. Sometimes you think you understand each other, and then you leave and you totally disagree. You realize later you didn't understand each other. It's very easy to misunderstand people, or mishear what they say, or misread what they write. So sometimes you have to ask for clarification, or sometimes you might have to re-ask a question. Sometimes it's how you ask the question that matters. And these are all things, some of these things like how you ask the question, you would learn more about that in a marketing research class. We'll touch on marketing research a little bit later, but that's a starting point. So yeah, listening is really important. Listening to literally what they say. Like if someone says, I want this product to be easier to use. Okay, they might not tell you how to do that, but that's your challenge. If they say, this product is too complicated, it needs to be easier to use, then your challenge as the maker of that product or the developer of that service is to then figure out how to make it easier to use. Because a lot of times, I'll even go to a website for a company and they hide their contact information. Why are you making it hard for me to find you? Why are you making it hard for me to order your product? Why are you making it hard for me to give you my money? So sometimes even how you market your product or service is too complicated. So listen to them, exactly. What is capturing value? What do you think that means? So creating value is about listening to what they want, to creating and marketing products and services that they can use. But then in return, you're going to capture value. So what does capturing value mean? What do you think?
Satisfaction of
You gain their trust.
Right? You gain their trust, satisfaction. The word relationship is in here too, right? So a relationship would imply a one-time purchase or a ongoing series of purchases.
ongoing series.
Right. So you definitely want to maintain a relationship so somebody keeps coming back.
Because you know the customer well.
Right, you know them. I can't remember the exact number. I think it's something like acquiring a new customer, I think costs you something like 7 times more than it does to keep your existing customers. So it's expensive. It costs you money to get new customers. And think about it too, if you have existing customers who feel positively about your product, remember we were just talking about word of mouth? So if you have people who like your product, they're going to tell their friends. Now the challenge is that, we were talking about human nature earlier, right? Human nature generally is such that if somebody has a negative experience with something, I think it's 10 times more likely to tell other people about a negative experience than they are about a positive experience. So it is still a challenge. Even though someone likes your product, they might just be content with it. They might refer other people to it. But if you mess up, or if you make a product or service that disappoints them, or frustrates them, or does not deliver value, they're going to tell a lot more people about that than they ever would if they liked your product. So that's kind of the challenge. That's why creating and maintaining that relationship is so important, because when you have a relationship with your customers, there's trust. Somebody had said the word trust. I think it was over here. Or was it over here? I don't know. But when your customers trust you, they give you the benefit of the doubt. They are open to sharing information with you because they also trust that you will listen to them. They trust that you're not just going to ask them a question and then waste their time, right? Okay. Any other thoughts on value? And sometimes it feels like an overused word, but I think if you break it down into sort of how we're talking about it now, you can better understand it. It's not just a word, it's really an experience, right? Value is a process of creating positive experiences between customers and producers of products and services. So we'll just go over the marketing process real quick. So somebody had said listening, right? Well, magically, that's the first step of the marketing process. Right? So if we go through the steps of the marketing process, the first step is understand the marketplace and the needs and wants of customers. So, listening, right? Asking questions, observing the market. Sometimes a really good way to understand the market is to just get an understanding of the current state of that market. Get a sense of the current products and services, get an understanding of if they're working, if they're not, how positively they're received, how negatively they're received. And sometimes you can come in and kind of be disruptive. What does it mean to be disruptive in a business sense? In a classroom, being disruptive is a bad thing, right? It means you're talking or being distracted. In a business sense, the latest buzzword is disruption, or being disruptive. What does that mean?
You attract people and they stop shopping at other places, for instance?
Somewhat, yeah, but why do they come to you instead of somebody else?
Because you have like the new thing.
You have something new, right? So someone else had an idea over here. I heard something.
To prevent something.
Say it one more time.
To prevent something.
It's more of a positive than a negative. I wouldn't say to prevent something, but I guess you could make an argument that it prevents something if whatever product or service you introduce into the market fixes a problem that exists, right? So as I'm talking, one example that comes to mind is Tesla, right? Or pretty much anything Elon Musk does is disruptive, right? Even SpaceX, right? He's developing his own space agency. And he's just doing it differently. And he has a different way of doing business. He didn't invent the car, but he's producing a product that is a totally different way for a car to function. His SpaceX program is literally developing rockets that launch, go to space, and then come back and literally land like cartoon rocket ships. And they come back and they land like this. Right? And they've been landing successfully, which is crazy, right? Because most rockets go to space and then usually the capsule will come off and then the rest of it you lose or whatever, right? So disruption is important. Disruption comes from listening, but then the next step is designing a customer value-driven marketing strategy. So your strategy should focus on ways to deliver value to the customer by improving the customer experience through better products and better services. Again, Tesla or SpaceX is a good example. Then you construct an integrated marketing program that delivers superior value. So your strategy is the idea, right? This is your idea, or your ideas, and this is the implementation. I'll even spell it correctly. Implement. I think I got it right. So when you design the strategy, that's your concept, your idea. Then you construct your program to deliver the value, right? How are you going to make it happen? Now that you have your idea, how do you put it into action? And then building profitable relationships and creating customer delight. This is a word that pops up every now and then, right? Maybe this is about inspiration. Or trust. Or word of mouth, right? This is where some of the things we're talking about, right? Customer delight sounds kind of like a funny word to use, but what does it mean to be delighted by something?
It means
Happy, right? One of my students, I don't know what class you're taking, but they had me fill out a survey on happiness, right? So, delight is happiness, right? If a customer is delighted with your product, they're happy with it, but they're almost even more than happy with it. They're joyous about it, right? There are some products people love, and they're passionate about. Lastly, capturing value from customers in return is about, so you capture value from customers to create profits and customer equity. So in a literal way, capturing value from customers, the value that you get from them is both financial, it's practical, it's transactional, but it's also bigger than that. It's transformational. It's about the relationship. It's about the passion of that product or service that your customers have for you and your offerings, right? So the value is both practical because if you're in business, you're in business to make money, right? That's the whole point of business, right? But you also want to be mindful of the bigger sort of philosophical goals that you can attain. And when you think about companies like Apple or even Harley Davidson, right? I don't ride motorcycles, but there's a small number of products that create this immense following and an immense loyalty between the customers and the company because there's a lot of trust and because there's inspiration and it creates a lot of word-of-mouth marketing. So again, the process then just repeats itself, right? So you create value, but it doesn't stop there. Then you go back and go, how can we make it better? Right?
Doctor,
Yes,
time.
it is time. It's always time to learn. Right? It's time to learn, but sometimes the time to learn comes to an end. I know you're very sad, but you have to go. And I wish you well on your next learning journey today.